Strategies for creating a good life. So I think this is at least the third time I've given this presentation. I think I started giving it during COVID. So that's a good way for me to clock it. And in this presentation, we're going to do two things. We're going to work on your plan. Your plan could be your plan as a parent or your plan as an individual in our group. So either of those work. And the second thing we're going to do is we'll talk about that calendar of activity that I shared with you very quickly at the beginning of the meeting. We'll go through it in a little bit more detail. So let me start off by telling you about my planning. And this is my son, Josh. Josh is now 31. He was diagnosed with high-functioning autism at 3 years and 11 months, and he started ABA at 4. At that time, it wasn't called ABA. We called it LOVOS. And I'm just going to make a comment here. There's a lot of interesting commentary now on ABA, of which I don't agree with it. But there's a lot of negativity for people saying it forces people to change and all that. And really, to me, what ABA was about and is about is that people on the spectrum learn differently. And what LOVOS was trying to do was develop a method to help teach people on the spectrum by basically taking all the curriculum that they might need to know for entering elementary school and break it down into discrete trials so that it was very simple, like how you would train your pet in a way, and rewarding them in the process. So I don't know if you've seen some of these great pet videos that are out there now, but there's Luna who can do math. There's this great video, I think the dog's name is Secret. Is it Secret or Surprise? Anyway, he can paint, he can dance, she can dance. I mean, it's amazing. So I just wanted to say that just because I hear a lot of negativity, and I know as a parent, when you have a young child who can't speak, who's just so aggravated and frustrated, not really participating in the world, ABA is a good thing. So it's my 2 cents. I might be controversial, but I thought I'd share it. Josh went through regular school. He had an aide a lot of the time, and graduated from high school. He went to Woodbridge High, graduated in 2010. It was hard to, he had such a rough time in high school, a lot of bullying, which I know from running the Gavel Club that a lot of our kids run into a lot of bullying. And so when he went to IVC, he started off as he was a dance major. He took his time because when he took too many classes, he would get stressed out. So he took a couple classes a semester. And so it took him about 4 or 5 years to get through IVC. He transferred to Cal State Fullerton, and he graduated end of 2019 with a Bachelor's of Art in Television and Cinema. You can look at the date and guess what's going to happen next. He got a job interning at a company called the Silver Dream Factory in Anaheim. He started in March, and during his first week, the COVID lockdown started. So that ended that for Josh. During COVID, he moved into a condo that we bought back in the recession of 2008. And so he moved into the condo, and we found a program called AFA Hub, which is paid for by Regional Center, which is a certificate program in television and film. So that's Josh, and we continue to work through things for Josh. And I'm just saying this, I say it all the time, it's a journey, not a race. A lot of times people compare themselves to other people. It's not fair to you, to your child, to anybody to do that, because we're all on our own journey, and there's nobody with a stopwatch saying when you have to complete your journey. So this is the first of 4 forms. This is your vision statement. And what I want you to do is to take a few minutes, and I want you to think about where you want to go. Where do you want to be? Do you want, for the person on the spectrum, do you want to be moving out of your house? You want to live independently? You want to have friends? You want to be working? You know, kind of picture yourself in maybe 5 years and visualize where you want to go. So I'm going to take a few minutes and let you work on your vision statements. Thank you so much. Yeah. You guys are doing great. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Let's keep going. Okay. Key challenges. So wouldn't it just be easy that your vision just comes true and boom? Unfortunately, we have challenges. We have challenges. We may need a degree. We may need people to hire us. We may be able to need to find affordable housing. Lots of challenges. So take a few minutes. I'll put I'll put 3 minutes on the clock. And make a list of your challenges. Okay, this is an old survey. I really need to put it on my goals to redo this. This was from 2018, but these were the top concerns of our members. So as you can see, finding employment was the top concern, then establishing friendships, developing independence, succeeding in school, finding a romantic partner, establishing government benefits, and some health issues. So just want you to realize that you're not alone, that we all have challenges. So this kind of helps you gauge how are you doing relative to other people. So this is a chart that I put together years ago to show that really it's overwhelming. A lot of these problems we've all had to deal with, and it's unending. You know, every stage of life, you sometimes have to re-encounter the same challenge. So maybe healthcare, you have one healthcare solution, but as you get older, you may have a different healthcare solution. As you age, there's a bunch of government programs you need to take advantage of once you turn 18. Parenting changes for our parents. You have to be a different person when they're young than when they're older. So knowing how to parent, you know, how to deal with an adolescent versus how to deal with a young child. Therapy, education goals change as our kids get older. Psychology, social skills, relationships, life skills. We talked about independence, career, financial. I've added one section in this presentation on housing, because that is something that comes up over and over again. And it's really, really hard because the cost of housing is so high and it's dependent on having financial security. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're going to go through all of these things. I'm going to share some resources with you. Maybe some other people have some resources they can share. But just know that it's a challenge. And my brother's visiting me this week, and he says, I thought life was supposed to be easy. And we said, no, life isn't easy. There's always a new challenge. Okay, so my question to you is, especially for the people that have been doing this with me for a few years, what have you accomplished this year? So what I want you to do is use the chat and write some things that you accomplished this year in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'll share some things that we accomplished in my house. So for us, somebody said about getting on the same page. We got a family therapist. My son had been seeing an individual therapist, and we kind of felt like we were losing touch with what they were working on, and there were some things that were affecting our house. So we now see a family therapist once a week. And due to COVID, my son's therapist was only seeing him as he was driving home from providing therapy to other people. So I called it listening to K Josh. And we didn't think that was good. We didn't think he was giving him the attention he needed to work through his issues. So we had a meeting with him the other week, and now they're meeting in person again. And that's good for our son too, because he's been slow to recover from COVID. What I love about this group is many of you are involved in lots of activities with OCASG. My son is not. And so last year I said, I've got to create an activity that he wants to go to. So Afternoons with Animat. Animat is a YouTube animation critic, extremely knowledgeable, extremely nice. And so I started Afternoons with Animat, so my son would want to go to one activity a quarter. So we started that this year, and he's at least doing that. My son was very upset about the election and very concerned about the election. So we canvassed for our candidate, and we met every week, and we gave money to our candidates. Gave money to about 30 candidates, about $5 each every week. And my son picked the candidates. We watched the polls, and I thought that was a good way to take negative energy and try to put it in a positive way. So I'm pretty proud that we were so active. I was never that active in politics, so this was a change for me. Section 8 housing. So it's like Haley's Comet. Every 10, 12 years, they open up Section 8 housing and accept and create a wait list. Josh has been on the wait list for over 10 years. And he's now number 700, and he's supposed to get it in the spring. So I kind of did some research on it to understand how that works. Every once in a while you get something in the mail that says, hey, if you're getting SSI or SSDI, or you're on CalFresh, you can save money. So there was a discount of $20 a month for cable, which we did. So save a little bit of money for him every month. Josh, as I mentioned, was interested in television and film. He wants to be a film editor. And this is something I encourage you to do. So I started a working group to try and increase employment in entertainment for individuals on the spectrum. I'm working with Exceptional Minds. Jana Choi, who's on the phone today, helped me work on a grant. And the reason I'm doing this is so that there'll be more opportunities for Josh and for other people. So if you have a problem, don't just work on it for yourself. Sometimes the best way to solve the problem is to solve it for other people. So I'm going to quickly look at the chat and see what everybody else had to say in terms of what they accomplished this year. So I'll go backwards. Achievements is getting a phone, opening a bank account, and managing my own money. I think that was Matthew. Congratulations, Matthew. Ken, active in OCSG, secured full-time employment. Yay, you're working at Amazon full-time, right? Congratulations. Brian, I got to do new tasks at my workplace. Excellent. I got to do, Ken completed peers. Matthew, also better at managing my time and emotions. Sandy, graduated from college. Yes. And you started it with a new therapist. Fantastic. David got an internship in IT. Excellent, David, because you want to go work in IT, and you enrolled in a new college, and you became more active socially, and you joined our group. Excellent. Kim got her son to take the access bus. Transportation, yay. Matthew graduated high school and started at IBC, joined OCASG, and he also joined our Gavel Club. And next month, he's giving his first speech. Yay. Yay, Matthew. Okay, I'm not going to go through this with everybody, but I am going to look at it later. But how does it make you feel when you finish something, when you have an accomplishment like that? Matthew, it looks like you want to say. So education is the key. I mean, a lot of times figuring out what to do, you first got to figure out what you can do. So I've added to this presentation two little icons. One is showing you upcoming meetings when we're talking about this topic in a meeting. The other is, due to COVID, for the last 3 years, we've been recording meetings. So we have a library of presentations that might be exactly what you need. So if you click on this in your PDF, it'll actually take you to the file. So these are all the activities coming up this year. We're going to go through them in detail, but I just wanted to point that out. And then these are all the different sessions that we had in the last 3 years. Okay, so I'm just pointing that out to you. You can find these on our website as well, and you can also find out about them if you read our monthly newsletter. Okay, we're ready to get started. Any questions before we start going through these 12 plus 1 different areas? Anyone have a question? Okay, so diagnosis. A lot of times you think that you're on the spectrum, or you're not sure, or you think your child's on the spectrum, or you're not sure, and getting a diagnosis might be on your to-do list. It's important that you get a diagnosis to get certain government benefits. So if you want to get SSDI, you have to have discovered the disability before the age of 22. And if you want to be a regional center client, you have to have done that by the age of 18 or before the age of 18. So this is reasons to get diagnosed. So if you haven't, those are the reasons to get specific government benefits, which you may need. So if you want to get a diagnosis, there's some different resources who can help you. Department of Rehab may help you. There's some different groups that offer it. Different people. Your private insurance may pay for it. And one thing is Dr. Lindsay Sterling is coming on February 21st, and she's one of the resources I point to for doing a diagnosis. So she can do teen and adult diagnosis. And she's going to talk about later age diagnosis and kind of what you do once you get diagnosed. So this may not be something on your list, but if it is, it might be something that's important for you to get done this year. Okay, healthcare. Healthcare is always important because you never know when you're going to get sick. Also, it might be a way of paying for some of these therapies that people are going through. So one thing that you should realize is that if you have a diagnosed disability, that the Affordable Care Act will allow you to stay on your parents' policy after age 26. If your child is approaching age 26, you may want to get started, because for me, it took me about 6-9 months to make this happen. Ken went through it, and it took a while for you, Ken, I believe. when you were trying to get your child on after the age of 26. So also you should know if your child gets SSI that they'll get Medi-Cal with that. Maybe you don't like the option of the doctors that are available for Medi-Cal. One thing that I did, and I believe Robin did it as well, is that if a parent is on Kaiser, or if your child had previously been on Kaiser, you can grandfather in Kaiser and get medical support through Kaiser. If you don't have Medi-Cal, but you're not earning a lot of money, you may be able to get Medi-Cal through the Orange County Social Services. So that's another option. If you get SSDI, which I'll explain a little bit later, after a 2-year waiting period, you get Medicare. And I am now at an age where I get Medicare and it's a great deal. So that's something to think about. How many of you think this year you need to do something about insurance? Raise your hand. Okay. Just so you know, we've had 2 sessions on insurance, one with Peter Freeberg and Neil Steinman. Peter works for Cigna and had a whole bunch of different services for individuals on the spectrum. Neil sells insurance and talked about Covered California. Tiffany is with Robin. Somebody help me remember what Medi-Cal's insurance carrier is. I'm forgetting. But anyway, she's with them. And then Paula Pompa is with Easter Seals, who Kaiser has Easter Seals provide their services to individuals on the spectrum. So those are 2 presentations you might want to listen to. Did somebody have a question? Savak, did you have a question, or did you just want to say that you needed to work on insurance?
Well, I just received a letter saying that my Medi-Cal has to be under managed care. So I was wondering, and I am on the UCLA Health Network. So I called them. They said it's LA Care now.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're in the West Side, so that's who they wanted you to use in terms of.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the answer, but it sounds like you have a project to deal with. You may need to change doctors or something like that. You know, Savag, another thing for you to think about is look into being on SSDI. Because your father passed away. I don't know if your mom investigated this, but you should be entitled to his Social Security about, I think it's 75% of his Social Security monthly payment that he would have been entitled to. So, and then you could get Medicare in a couple of years, which has a lot more options. So that's something that you might want to put on your list of things to look into this year. Okay, plan ahead takes a while. All right. We talked a lot about government benefits. I've just kind of alluded to them. And this is not a comprehensive list. It's amazing how many different agencies there are. And I am not familiar with all of them myself, but these are the major ones. So Regional Center is a nonprofit. It's not actually an agency, it's a nonprofit, but it's contracted by the state of California to coordinate lifelong services and support for individuals with developmental disabilities and their families. So typically when your child is under 3, Regional Center might pay for ABA, they pay for a lot of different services. Once your child is in school, then the services are typically provided through the school district first. And so regional center may pay respite or some other kind of thing. Once your child turns 18, then regional center has, and they're through with school, then regional center takes over as being a more important resource. And there's a lot of things that they can provide, help with living situations, help with independent skills, help with employment. But it's not a guarantee to become a regional center client. We had Peter Huber speak to us last year, and he discussed regional center and what they look for in terms of admitting someone into as a regional center client. If you are a regional center client, in theory, that's supposed to be a lifelong relationship, so you're better off doing it earlier than later. But it's definitely a good resource for you to have in your pocket for your child or for yourself. An example, like Savag has regional center, he uses Westside Regional Center, and he was able to continue with his internship using their paid internship program, which pays up to 1,040 hours a year. So that ended up being a really good thing for Savag. Okay, SSI, we'll go into a little bit more detail, but it's a means test program for people with disability. Typically, if your family has wealth, you probably wouldn't have qualified for SSI when you're under the age of 18, but after the age of 18, you're considered an adult. And if you meet the means tested qualifications, then you might be entitled to SSI. You have to apply. It takes, I have a whole binder that's this thick of the application process, so it's not easy, but it does give you a monthly income coming in. SSDI is another Social Security program. It's based on the benefits that you might have earned or your parent might have earned. So if your parent or parents, if you start collecting Social Security, then your child may be able to convert over to SSDI. And there's some advantages to that. They will typically get 50% of your benefit. My husband retired, and I encouraged him to take Social Security a little bit early so that our son Josh could move to SSDI. The way employment is handled with SSDI is much financially better. So there's a reason for doing that. So we've had a couple of sessions with Jim Hayek. Jim Hayek is a benefits advocate who can help you apply for these government services. And so he has a presentation where he explains them. And then last year we had a session that covered, it was called Meet the Agencies. It had Regional Center, Department of Rehab, and Social Services. Not Social Security, but Social Services. And then we also had one on self-determination. Self-determination is a program at Regional Center. This is one of my goals for this year. The idea is that instead of having to use Regional Center vendors for every service, you can create your own budget and pick your own vendors to provide your services. It's much more complicated than that, but we have a lot to cover. This year, we have a speaker, Scarlett von Theron, who is a benefits advocate and an expert on work incentives if you're on Social Security. This is really important. So she's coming in October to speak to our group. What does it say? Oh, I say recommendation, consider hiring an advocate. I did, because it's very easy to get rejected from these organizations. Okay, this was from that 2018 survey, and you can see that 1/3 of our population had regional center, were regional center clients. About 30% had Medi-Cal or Medicare. About 1/4 were DOR, and about 16% had SSI or SSDI. I gotta say that every year I will have a parent, many parents say, hey, I got my son as a regional center client, or hey, I got him on SSI, as a moment of celebration, because it's not an easy thing. So these numbers are probably greater now, just due to the awareness and people actually taking the time to apply for these services. When I say SSI is a resource tested, that means that you have to basically be in financial need. This may mean that as an individual that you have less than $2,000 in your checking account, savings account, all the accounts with your name on it. It doesn't count if you owned a home or an automobile or the furniture or clothing or burial parts, etc. But so this is one of the requirements to get SSI plus be disabled, and they really go and evaluate all that. One way around it, and we'll talk a little bit more about ABLE accounts later, is that an ABLE account allows you to put money aside, $16,000 a year now. So it's a way to start moving money into an ABLE account, so it's not, and that money doesn't get counted as part of this resource test. Another way to deal with it is by setting up a special needs trust. So when my son turned 18, we applied for SSI. He had some money due to his bar mitzvah, and so he had some money in the bank. So we set up a special needs trust where we moved the money into that account so that it didn't count against him when applying for SSI. This is typically the amount you get in 2022. An adult child could get up to $1,041 a month. This is if they're paying rent. Okay, that's like a whole something to think about, because if they're not paying rent, then there's money subtracted from their benefit to fundamentally show that, hey, he's received some kind of in-kind service by you providing a place for him to live. Similarly with SSI, you lose money if you earn money. So for every $2 that you earn, you lose a dollar of benefit. Okay, so the check gets smaller the more money you earn. This is why I've asked Scarlett to come and speak to us next year, because there's ways around this, or to be less impacted, because you could earn as much as your benefit and basically lose the benefit. So it's really important that you're aware of it. Similarly, unearned income like cash gifts or inheritance, you lose $1 for every dollar, up to 100% of your benefit. And the in-kind income was like housing, so that was like if you're living with your parents. You can apply for this benefit a month after your 18th birthday. The other option, this is the one that I was suggesting to Savag you might want to look into, is the childhood disability benefit, or SSDI. And again, this is based on whether whether your parent is on Social Security, and you can basically get 50% of their benefit. It doesn't subtract from theirs, it's an additional pool, or up to 75% when your parent passes away. I mentioned that I encouraged my husband to start taking Social Security. With SSDI, you don't lose that dollar for every $2 earned. So you don't have that problem. You also don't have the issue of maximum cash on hand, of having to stay below that $2,000 threshold. You also, the way it works instead with SSDI is there's a very complicated trial work period And I'll go into that in a little more detail. I think I understand it a little better now. And then from an insurance point of view, after 2 years, you get a Medicare, which is has a lot more freedom than Medi-Cal does in terms of the doctors that you choose or the type of policy that you go on. And even this year, a lot of the Medicare Advantage programs now include dental. There's going to be next year, people will be able to spend up to $1,500 on dental with any dental insurance, with any dentist. So that's like great. Plus there's the Silver Sneaker program. There's a whole bunch of nice programs that are available if you are on Medicare. There's something called Medi-Medi, which is you're on Medicare and Medi-Cal, in which case, usually with Medicare, you have to still pay a small premium, maybe it's a couple $100 a month. But with Medi-Medi, you don't pay any premiums, or there shouldn't be any out-of-pocket costs. There's some limitations there, like if the doctor isn't covered by, isn't a Medicare provider, that may not count. This is how the trial work period works. Oh, I don't even think I want to go over this. This is just too complicated. We'll do this next year. You can read it. If anyone wants to understand this more, let me know and I'll go over it. But it's complicated because basically they look at if you work 60 months, but if in any 9 months you earn more than $940, it triggers that now they're going to start looking at your wages and deducting, and if you make over a certain threshold, which is 1310, then you may start losing your benefit. It's just all complicated. Okay. Sorry about that. It's too complicated for me to, and I've spent the last 9 months focusing on this, and still I'm confused. Okay, other work-related, DOR is really an important organization. They do not have nearly the complexity and the difficulty in applying for their service. They can help youths find employment. So age 15, 16, they can help them find employment. While they're in school, they support an organization called Workability, which helps people get jobs, gets training, internships. There's also the Ticket to Work program, which helps protect benefits while someone is working on employment. Okay, so that's government benefits. And I suggest if you're really interested in this, you watch some of the videos from previous years. As I mentioned, parenting is a challenge. One thing that you should know is that Regional Center will fund parent training. And it's amazing, we can't even drive a car without going through training, yet we get to be parents driving a more dangerous vehicle, in my book, without any training. And so I have found that the parent training is really helpful in terms, and there's a lot of workshops and stuff available. So if you're struggling, you may want to look into some kind of parent training. My advice also is, parents, you try to do everything yourself, okay? And it's really a fast path to burnout. So look at how you can get other help. Maybe you need to hire tutors. Maybe you need to have someone help with your social activities. Maybe you need a therapist. Maybe you need to look at ways of dealing with transportation. But when the parent is trying to do it all, it's very exhausting, and you can quickly burn out. Teenage years and adulthood can be difficult. You know, your child wants to grow up. They want to be independent, and that fight for independence can be difficult if you haven't established a good relationship. And that can lead to defiance. It could lead to, they can get depressed, start taking drugs, a lot of behaviors that may be extremely difficult. So it's really important that you figure this out in your teen years, because once they get older, you have less control as they get older. Things you can do is support groups like our group, parenting workshop, regional center will help pay for respite care and help. So we had Michael Urim, who wrote a book on parenting, come to speak as part of our author series. And there's a great session with him speaking. Public disclosure, he is who our family therapist is, and he's just excellent. And he'll be speaking to our group again this coming year on getting unstuck. Okay, let's talk therapy. This is from the Chance Theater.
I'm not gonna lie, getting your diagnosis can be difficult. I'm kind of lucky because I was diagnosed at a young age. OCD at age 1, autism at 2, and so on. HD, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder. It's a party!
Oh, aren't you lucky? I have no idea. Autism? Yeah. One of my biggest afflictions being a teenager.
But never fear. There will be an endless parade of specialists to help you. Psychologists,
Cognitive behavioral therapist,
psychiatrists,
occupational therapist,
physical therapists,
behavioral therapist,
speech therapists.
Let's not forget all of the disorders comorbid with autism.
ADD, ADHD, OCD, Tourette's.
Auditory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder. Sensory integration disorder.
Dermatillomania, trichotillomania,
Developmental coordination disorder.
learning disabilities,
Motor delays.
depression,
Anxiety.
meds can help.
And hurt.
They do their best to treat the symptoms that come along with living in a world where neurodivergence is mocked.
It's not like there's an autism pill. You try antipsychotics like Abilify and Risperdal. You want to go the FDA route. Boo.
So for now, we get antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds like fluoxetine, fluvoxamine, sertraline, paroxetine.
Don't worry, parents. We have not forgotten about you. Throughout this journey, you can expect to feel
Frustration,
fear,
anger, that
confusion,
crushing feeling when you do anything in the world to help your child, but you simply do not know what to do.
you become an expert on things you previously had no interest in.
You'll get to be a doormat as your child will blame you for everything and take their frustration out on you.
You will have many useful discussions with teachers, doctors, and specialists as they tell you what you already know about your child and tell you to control the things you are already struggling with.
Become a pharmacist, a drugstore always open for business.
Say goodbye to sleep. Say goodbye to your social life.
As you begin this exciting chapter, remember that life is a journey, ups and downs, just like everyone around you. You are here, and that is the first step.
I just love that. For the last 5 years, OCSG has sponsored the Chance Theater Spectrum Speak Up Teen Program. And during the summer, teens on the spectrum spend 5 or 6 weeks in a theater program where they learn about the theater, learn improv, have lots of fun, make friends, and they write and produce their own show, which this was from the very first Spectrum Speak Up. But I just love to share that because what I love about it is, one, hearing their view of all that as a parent I went through with all the different therapies and all the different diagnoses and all the different things that we worked on to try and help Josh have the best life possible. Okay, here's just a subset of an ever-growing list of therapies, some of which we've had come and speak to our group about. We've had ABA. Peers, we had, I don't think it's shown here, but we had folks from UCLA come and talk about Peers for Careers and Peers for Dating. We had Executive skills training, we now offer executive skills training once a year with Karen Lerner. Cognitive behavioral therapy, there's nutritional therapies. I know that some of you are working on that. Vision therapy, perceptual motor coordination, we did that. Medications. We had Matthew Curry, it's not here, but I think under psychology I have that, talk about different medications. Some of our folks have done hypnosis and martial art and exercises. I think in April we have Jan Johnson-Tyler, who has written a book on executive functioning, coming to speak to our group. Okay, so, I mean, the way I look at therapy, just to kind of finish that off, is be sure and look into it, make sure it's something that's right for you. And, you know, talk to other people, find the right people that are offering it, because not every vendor is the same. And it should be basically, you know, every once in a while you hit a bump and you need some additional help, like the executive skills training, you know, you needed help in school to get organized. So it should be based on what your needs are and the bumps, the challenges, you know, like Matthew listed a fear and anxiety, you know, if there was something here for him, it might be something a workshop, he might be something he might want to do to help him get over that bump. Education is really key. There's a lot of questions. Do you go to public school? Do you go to private school? Do you get a diploma versus a certificate of completion? Just so you know, this is changing. There's work being done to give everybody a diploma, and it's work in progress, but it's just something coming out of Sacramento. So something to keep an eye on. What do you want to do for college? You know, community college, or go to Cal State? Do you want to go to a private school? Maybe you go to trade school and get a certificate. We had Paul Eisenberg and Alyssa Green Kostonen talk last year about the IEP process and how to, you know, basically do the best job for your child during the IEP process. So this might be, if your child is still in school and you have an IEP, or you want to have an IEP, this would be a good session to watch. Note funding. So some of your college can be paid for through Department of Rehab. If you are going to college, you need to make sure that you set up services with the disability office on campus. Hint, you're going to need an IEP. You're going to need your IEP from high school when your child goes to college to qualify. You may want to consider tutoring and on-campus living. I think we've had in the past people from CLE come and speak about the college living experience. This year, on March 20th, we are going to have someone from College Blueprint, Jan from College Blueprint, who runs College Blueprint, talk about autism-friendly colleges or programs that they have specifically for individuals on the spectrum. So this is something she advises people all the time on what colleges you might want to consider. For example, UC Davis now has an excellent program for individuals on the spectrum. Cal State Long Beach does as well. There's a lot of really excellent programs out there now, so it's good to know about them. November, what do we have going on in November? See, I'm looking here to remind myself. Well, this was me getting unstuck. I don't know. November 18th. Introduction to the North Orange County continuing education. So this might be something that you want to attend. Well, this shouldn't be November, because I speak in November. I think this is August. Sorry, gang, that should say August. Okay, well, so in August, we're going to have North Orange County continuing education. Adam Gottdank has spoke to our group a number of times. It's an excellent program, and they've recently gotten a lot of funding from a lot of different grants. So I thought it might be an interesting one for us to hear from. College is about a lot of things. My son really matured a lot and learned a lot, made some friends, got prepared for his career. A lot of benefits out of going to college. It may not be for you, but encourage people to consider it as part of their path. This is a chart from that 2018 survey that showed the educational program or a status for the people in our group. We had 6% with post bachelor's degrees, so like masters, PhDs. 14% graduated from four-year college, 11% were in four-year colleges, 9% had some college, 20% were in community college, 19% of this group were high school grads, and 12% were still in high school, and about 4% were either in elementary school or middle school. I'm gonna keep going then. Okay, so psychology, we had Dr. Matthew Corey, who's a psychiatrist. A lot of times people have a hard time finding a psychiatrist. What's the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist is a psychiatrist is a medical doctor who can prescribe medications. So usually you'll need a psychiatrist and a psychologist if you need to be put on meds. We've also had Dr. Gantman speak a number of times. And we've had other therapists speak. In fact, the way we selected Michael Urim is that I had Josh watch some of the old videos of the different therapists, and I said, which one do you want us to work with? And he picked Michael. So that was kind of how we did it. So we've had I think we've had presentations from Alex on the different types of medications, as well as the one from Dr. Curry. Types of issues that are dealt with in therapy are anxiety and depression, anger management, OCD, attention deficit, maybe sexuality concerns. So Dr. Gantman, we did a series during COVID. Actually, we started doing it before COVID, called Conquering Behaviors. We also did one on conquering emotions. So Alex is going to be speaking in January on anxiety, depression, and anger management. So for those that are dealing with those emotions, that's a good one. August 14th, we have a session. I got to remember what that is. Getting Unstuck. That's with Michael Urim. Okay. A few people have talked about having friends, and social skills is an important skill to have to make friends. We had Dr. Lindsay Sterling came, and she has written a book on social skills that was excellent. And so this is recorded. One thing I'll point out is when we record sessions, we also have the slides alongside of it. So if you just want to go and flip through the slides, that might be something that you want to do. Typically, you want to work on your conversation skills. A lot of times we've recommended peers as a therapy for helping with developing social skills. In May, what do we have going on in May? We have we're going to have, we'll talk a little bit about Toastmasters in a second, but we're going to have a session if you have a teen or an adult. We're going to have two different sessions going on in the summer. Both are free. One, I shared with you the Chance Theater. So Karen O'Hanlon, who's the director of that program, will be discussing the Chance Theater Spectrum Speaker program. And then our Gavel Club, our Toastmasters Gavel Club, is currently being researched by Dr. Sasha Zidek and Yasmin Balerian, who have gotten a grant from the Organization for Autism Research. And part of that research is going to be to run a Speechcraft, which is a summer workshop for with Toastmasters that I'll be leading. And so that'll happen in the summer. So we'll be talking about that, as well as they may talk about their research of what they found so far, or I may give a presentation that I have on deconstructing Toastmasters. So there's all kinds of relationships. So we talked about parenting, but last year we had Dr. Jeremy Hamburg, who talked about the 5 steps to dating. Michael Urim talked about parenting. We had Keela and Susan Marino and Marcy Wheeler talk about relationships, marriage, etc. And Chelsea O'Hare talked about creating a happy family. So lots of relationships, but you have relationships with your family, you have relationships with your friend, you have relationships with a lot of the support services. All those relationships are important. I talked a little bit about Toastmasters. I'm going to show a little video in a second. We've been doing this for 10 years, and we celebrated it. Was it not last weekend, the weekend before, right, Ken? I'm looking at you, trying to remember.
I think it was last weekend, Judy. Wasn't it?
No.
Oh, you're right.
Before.
Time flies.
But it's
It was
amazing.
great, though.
It's amazing that we've been doing this for 10 years. It's a great way for developing communication skills, leadership skills, but also building friendships and gaining confidence in yourself. I'm going to show, and as I said, we'll be talking about that in May. And here's just a little video that about our Gavel Club.
As far as the Gavel Club, that has just been an amazing springboard for him to develop socially. Watching his progress and all of the people involved in Gavel Club, to see their progress from when we started a couple years ago until now. They've just blossomed with their confidence and speaking skills. And I think most importantly, their social skills. They've developed friendships. We all have.
Yeah. As a recent college graduate seeking a full-time job, I have great interest about the impact of COVID on the job market and the future of work. From what we can observe so far, the pandemic has affected in-person services and high digital skills in very different ways. Well, it's helped me develop more self-confidence and social skills. Learn how to prepare and structure speeches and evaluations, and improve communication skills.
At that point, because things turned out so sour, I could have decided I would have hated the world and had more bitterness towards the world. But I decided, I realized I had a choice at some point and decided I didn't want to live like that.
In one of my last speeches, I was talking about the death of Superman, and I mentioned Batman in that speech. In this speech, however, I'm not going to be talking about the Dark Knight himself. I'm going to be talking about one of his main villains, But it's not going to be the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, Scarecrow, Two-Face, Ra's al Ghul, or Catwoman, what you see right here. It's going to be this man, Bane.
You know, certainly the Gavel Club, you know, is really helpful in, you know, improving Kenny's communication skills, learning how meetings are structured. You know, he's pretty introverted, so just having a group, a community, I think is really important for us both.
Lastly, even though we love to scare ourselves, mankind's greatest fear is the unknown. For the fear of the unknown is one of the most natural and instinctive fears that we have. This is because people love the world to make sense by having things wrapped up in nice, neat little packages, because our world is easier to engage in when things make sense. So some may choose to further engage with the unknown in order to make best sense of the world. Ever since joining Gavel Club, I got a little bit better at speaking in public and creating my speeches. When I first started Gavel Club, I would speak fast and people couldn't understand my words. I'm getting better right now. I'm now speaking more slowly and clearly, though sometimes I will slur my words and speak too fast. But other times I do speak slowly and clearly enough so people can understand me, and I'm getting better at organizing my speeches because of the topics into the proper. I'm getting better at practicing my speeches and not reading directly from my note cards and directly looking at the camera. And I'm also glad I'm able to make some more friends beyond my coworkers at work, and I think it's really healthy.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, life skills. So lots of life skills. We're always working on these, you know, so career skills, the ability to advocate for yourself, have those relationships, take care of your finances, get from point A to point B in terms of transportation, etc. So lots of skills. You don't have to learn them all up front. But every year you should be adding more to your repertoire. We've had some speeches. Brian, I'm trying to remember his last name. We've had a number of individuals who are on the spectrum who have managed to live fantastic lives, and some of those have been shared in our list of videos. We had Kathy Taylor and Isaac Bermudez talk about getting help on your independent skills, and Rosie Tellez is with Disability Rights California, and she talked about self-advocacy. So in April, we have a session with Jan Johnson Tyler on, oh no, this is the one with Tom Island, who is on the spectrum. He's a distinguished Toastmaster, and he's written a book about life, and he's going to be speaking. So I'm really looking forward to hearing him talk. He's just an amazing guy. Employment, many of you talked about employment. With 1 in 54 people being on the spectrum, or kids being on the spectrum, employment is a big issue. 58% of the people with autism who finish high school never end up holding a job, and 85% are unemployed. When we did our survey, we found this was the employment situation. So the happy faces, was happily employed. That was 20%, or 19%, 18% were employed, but they weren't happy with, they wanted a better job. 32% had work, but they weren't working now. And then 31% had never worked. This whole working thing also was made more difficult by COVID, because a lot of people lost their jobs during COVID. Our community was the highest impacted. So employment is not a given. You know, it takes work. There are a lot of resources out there to help with employment. We had Alexandra Mendoza and Renee Brown come to speak to us last year, or just recently actually, about apprenticeships. There's a lot of work being done in apprenticeship. DOR is working with an organization called Ready, Willing, and Able. And there's like 5 or 6 different apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeship programs include a portion where there's study, and then a portion of a practicum, which is a year of working where you get paid. They have programs in working in optometry, like working at, say, Target in their glasses area. They have dental hygiene. They have medical coding. They have working with numerically controlled machines. They have being a caregiver. So they have a variety of different programs, and they're adding to it all the time. So that's a good way to go for someone who's not interested in college, but wants to start working right away in a position that might pay a bit more. Who was it? Jeanette mentioned the New Vistas career program. They offer help with working and building skills. We've had some people speak about the certification programs at community colleges. They're doing things like flying drones. There's a whole career there for controlling drones. There's 3D printing. There's nursing. There's a lot of different programs through the community college where you can learn a career. I mentioned SAVAG and the paid internship program. This is a great ability for you to get a job in your career and not have it cost the employer anything. So it's a good way to get your foot in the door. Project Search is going to be restarting. Project Search is an 11-month internship program where you work at a facility and you rotate through different departments. So you may be in food service, you may be in inventory control, you may be, in different departments, quality, cleaning and quality control. So there's a lot of different programs that you might do. Regional Center can also help you with job coaches. And those 3 programs are uniquely there are job coaches also available through DOR, but with Regional Center, you could have a job coach throughout your whole career. So those are services when we talked about Regional Center, why you might want to establish a relationship with Regional Center. We talked about some of the apprenticeships that are offered through DOR. DOR now offers on-the-job training and also 100 hours of internship. They have summer employment programs and workability. Goodwill, United Way, all have some kind of career program. We've been offering Career Club. We're on our 2nd year. Our 1st year, I think Ken and Savag were part of our first group of Career Club members. This is a program where it's basically 7 months, once a month, where we focus on teaching different skills and things about establishing a career. This is specifically for college graduates. Here's the syllabus. Of the people who participated in the first group, 7 of them have found employment. I'm involved in something called the Orange County Transition Initiative, which is part of the Thompson Policy Institute. We meet every month working on helping to develop employment opportunities and helping people make the transition to adulthood. We now have a website that has a lot of information available. There's a movement called, used to be called Autism at Work, now maybe it's called Neurodiversity at Work. These are the companies that have programs to help individuals on the spectrum or neurodiverse folks find employment. We've had, every year we do a session focused on autism at work. Usually it's in April, but these companies have invested in building programs to address this population. There's a number of companies in Orange County that are working on it. Edwards Life Sciences got a pilot program. Capital Group has a pilot program. A number of companies have a pilot program going on to help build opportunities for individuals on the spectrum. There is a Autism at Work roundtable, and they have helped put together this playbook that defines kind of the steps in creating a successful program. One thing that, as I've been involved in the Autism at Work or helping increase employment opportunities for those on the spectrum, one thing that's clear is that these opportunities come from parents getting involved with their companies and driving those companies to create Autism at Work or Neurodiversity at Work programs. If we don't roll up our sleeves and make things happen, things won't happen. And it's not like you have to do a lot. If we have a form, and maybe I'll send it to you after this meeting's over, for you to volunteer to just introduce your company to experts in driving neurodiversity at work programs. So we have a number of organizations that we work with. We work with with Grit and Flow, with Zavicon, with Neurotalent Works, just to name 3. And if you, every month in the newsletter, there's a section for you to provide the names of your company and say that you'll introduce us to them. And if you do that, then we'll do the hard work of helping them put together a program. If you don't do that, I really don't want to hear you complain that your kid can't find work, because you haven't paid it forward. I mean, I will help you. I'll do Career Club. I do a ton of things, but the least you can do is to try and help us grow these opportunities, and you do that through your own participation. So that's the end of that soapbox.
Hey, Judy, I had a question on that. So,
Yes.
So if somebody has a connection with a company,
Yes.
they can introduce them to you, and then you and Zavicon or somebody would.
What we'll do is, we do this after every Autism at Work session in April, but it's published throughout the year. And so if they provide their name and stuff, we'll meet with them. Like we did it with Ingram, I think was one of the companies we did it with in Western Digital, where we'll meet with them and then we'll start working, and Zavicon or Grit and Flow, we'll start working with those organizations to educate them on neurodiverse programs and help them build those. There's even funding through Department of Rehab. There's funding for up to $20,000 per company. So for small to medium-sized companies to fund putting these kind of programs together. So it'll pay for any consultants that you might need. So anyway, so you don't have to do the hard work. You just introduce us, and then we'll follow up.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jonna. Okay. So financial, I mean, where do you want to work? Because you need money. So obviously employment is one way. We talked about SSI and SSDI. Some people, you know, over the years, I've been involved with this group. Year after year, I see parents pass away. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't live forever. And one thing you can think about is funding your child through your life insurance policy. So that's something to consider. An ABLE account is a way to start saving up money, and a special needs trust. We've had Susan Katzen, who's a special needs attorney, come to speak to our group about special needs trusts. In last year, we had someone from an investment company come and speak. She wouldn't allow me to record the session, so we're going to do it again in July and have someone speak about financial planning. But you know, it's really important for you to plan for the long run for your child. You know, I hear and do it properly, because you may not be here forever, and your child is going to need some kind of financial support or some kind of plan to keep things together for them. Okay, I'm going to talk a second about an ABLE account. So this was implemented 5-6 years ago. It allows somebody with a disability to set up a account. It's done through the state, or there's a bank associated with the state that allows you to deposit up to $16,000 a year. It can come from a parent, it could come from the child. For us, my sister-in-law passed away, and we get her 401k, and every year we fund Josh's ABLE account through that. The money is invested, and if you take money out, there's no tax on that. You can even have part of your earnings be put into the ABLE account. So if you're on SSI, it allows you not to reach that $2,000 threshold. And what's good is you can spend this money in places that, if you remember when we went through SSI, and if you spend money on rent and it's not out of money from Social Security, you lose part of your benefit, but you can pay for it out of the ABLE account without losing your benefit. So for example, when Josh was at Cal State Fullerton, he was on SSI, and before he paid us rent living in our house, okay? But we wanted him to live in the dorm, but the cost of the dorm was so expensive that if he had paid that, or if we had found some way to pay for it ourselves, whatever, it would have counted against his benefit, and he could have lost up to a third of his benefit. But because we had the ABLE account, we paid for his dorm fees out of the ABLE account. So it was a way of being able to improve his quality of life while maintaining his Social Security benefit. Anyway, talked about in other videos that we had, so be sure and look at that. A third-party special needs trust, I talked a little bit about that. It's a special needs trust is the best way to leave a benefit for your child, because you can make sure that it's managed by other people by putting it in a special needs trust. It won't have an impact on the benefits package that your child has. So it's a way of protecting Social Security and Medi-Cal, even after you pass on, if you leave your assets to your child. Again, I recommend the Susan Katzen webinar if you want to know more about this. This is something that we've done several times for Josh. And the last time we set up a fiduciary to be the trustee after we're gone, because we realized all our siblings were getting old and none of them were going to be as capable as I was of managing Josh's benefit. And I think we've had a fiduciary come and speak to us in the past, so you might want to look at that. Okay, this is a new section, finding a home. And the answer is not easy, I got to tell you. Section 8 housing, like I said, it's like Haley's Comet, signing up for it. You get put on a waiting list, and they only open up the waiting list every 12 or so years. And then you have to wait another 12 years for your name to come up to the top of the list. So when you are on Section 8 housing, they give you a voucher, and the voucher pays for your rent. So for us, Josh is going to be at the top of the list, I think in April or May. So I'll know more about it next year. I've got a number of things from Regional Center. We had Regional Center speak to us several times. Jack Stanton is the director of their housing department at Regional Center, and he's spoken to us twice. This last time, he was really informative. And then there's it says Irving, sorry. My dad's name is Irving, I guess that's my Nashville typo here. But not last year, but the year before, we had a number of organizations that have affordable housing programs. So a lot of times when organizations build a complex, they have a certain number of designated affordable housing units. And so this is a great way if you can, but it's again, like winning the lottery, because they just don't have that many units. And typically if your child's a Regional Center client, they might have reserved a number of spots for Regional Center clients. So there are a number of these affordable housing programs. I don't keep a list of them. If somebody wanted to volunteer to keep a list of them, it would be great. I think we have to go word of mouth to find them, and then to find out every once in a while you get an email about somebody opening up a waiting list for one of these properties. So if you want to know more about those, the session with Jack Stanton, Rochelle Mills, and Mark Asturis talked about different affordable housing. I've got a couple of slides from Jack's presentation in the last one that he gave to us on some of the Regional Center options, which surprised me. I had no idea. You know, you don't know what services are available through Regional Center. Unfortunately, it's like by talking to other people, you find out, or me having some people come and do presentations. But Regional Center will help pay for a variety of different types of living situations. So I'm not going to go through this. I recommend that you watch his presentation, but you can see that there's different types of programs. Some of the funding comes through SSI. So again, that's another reason why you might need to look at getting SSI. So this one is a community care facility. This is an intermediate care facility where it typically is kind of a group home situation. And then there are family homes where families will take in one or two people with disabilities, and they live there. So there are a variety of programs. But it's gonna, it's a project. Most of these things are a project. But you can do it. We've gone through this whole list today. There's challenges, complexities, cost, etc. in doing this, but you can take on some of these challenges. So get out your worksheet again. So we're going to do, so the thing about all this is it's overwhelming, okay? And if you tried, let me finish this, Matthew, and then I'll call on you just a sec. If you tried to solve all these things at once, you would be overwhelmed. You really need to prioritize. You really need to take 2, 3 of these and get them done, and then maybe take on the next 2 or 3. That's why I do this every year, is so that you don't try to solve everything at one time. It may be that first, your kid's turning 18 and you need to worry about college and you need to worry about SSI or being a regional center client. It may be that you're graduating from college and now you need to know about work or independent living skills. So don't feel overwhelmed. Don't try to solve everything at the same time. Yeah, Matthew, what was your question?
I'm kind of
We talked about a bunch of things. Look at this list, pick 3, 5 of these things. In the blank, put what it is. So it may be I've got to write a special needs trust this year, or it may be I've got to improve my IEP process because he's not, and get a transition plan. Whatever it is, write it down, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes on the clock. So the journey begins with just a small step. So if you had 3 or if you had 5, just put what one thing you could do to get yourself started. It may be to watch one of the videos I shared with you. It may be to have a meeting with someone, maybe to make a phone call. Just put one step. So just take a minute and indicate what that one step would be to get you started. Okay, I think I will do this next part for anyone who wants to stay, but it's all the activities we have coming up. But before we go, I want to, if you want to stay, I'm happy to go through this and I will. But if you're feeling burned out, ready to go, this would be a good time to leave. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to share before we move on to the next part? I hope this was useful.
Judi, this is Ken. I have my sheet from November 2018, and it's surprising how many goals we've achieved. So this is great. Thank you.
Oh, that's so great. Tell me, which ones did you achieve?
Well, okay, let me look.
So I've been doing this since 2018, you guys.
Yeah,
I must have been in
Kenny was
person.
a student at UC Riverside. He graduated, did well. He wants to make more friends. So my goals were graduating from university, finding job.
Yeah, he joined Toastmasters, a lot of things.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Developing social skills. So yeah, it's a really good exercise. And it's what made me really get interested in the OCASG. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other questions? So for those that want to stay, I'm going to basically go through what's happening next year. You don't need all this. I'm going to go through it quickly. So these are the talks we have scheduled. So we always start off with a session with Dr. Gantman, and he's going to be talking about conquering emotions, so anger, anxiety, and depression. I mentioned Dr. Sterling is going to talk about diagnosis. Jan Kirchner from College Blueprint will talk about autism-friendly college programs. We'll have our Autism at Work in April. Finding Your Voice will be about Toastmasters and the Chance Theater. We'll have Courtney Hiccup talk about financial planning, Michael Urim about getting unstuck, This says November, but it should say August. Learn about NOCE. Scarlett Van Thienen will talk about work incentive programs with the SSI and SSDI, and I'll be back in November to do this all over again. These are our author series. We're going to have Barbara Bissonette, who wrote the book that we use for Career Club, talk about this book. So for our Career Club alums, it'd be fun for you to meet Barbara. She's a great person, and this is an excellent book. Jan Johnson Tyler, who works for Evo Libre up in Northern California, which is an excellent program, has written a number of books. This one is called The CEO of Self, so it's about just some executive skills that you may want to develop. And I mentioned Tom Island, who is a distinguished Toastmaster, talk about his experience in self-discovery. He is a distinguished Toastmaster. He runs a coaching program, and he's now engaged. He's going to be getting married. These are all our support meetings that we'll, I think, continue to do virtually, although I'm thinking about maybe having the adults do it in person. I'm thinking about how we incorporate in person in some of these things. Our Gantman sessions, so we'll continue to have parents, adults, and teens. We're going to cut down on siblings. We had very poor attendance on the sibling side. So moms, this is your Mother's Day gift. You tell your your kids who are siblings to your child who's on the spectrum, what I want for Mother's Day is for you to attend the sibling session. We're going to continue with Keela Parkinson with our partner support group. This is a small group, but a great group and she teaches a lot of mindfulness techniques and meditation and things like that in these programs. So it's really a holistic journey. For our women on the spectrum, Dr. Ali Arena leads a support group for our girls. Really an excellent place for them to share their experiences. The Gavel Club, we meet on the second Saturday of the month. Been doing this for 10 years. And as I mentioned, we'll be doing a speechcraft this summer. Yep, you saw that already. Continue with our social activities. This is our game night. If you haven't done game night, it's a fun way to easily socialize. Erin Alonso, is Robin still here? Robin's daughter is our social coordinator.
So, as you can see on my screen, I have this categories list 5 up on the screen. And I have this die that has all the letters of the alphabet. I'm gonna roll it and say I get the letter A. Then each of your answers for all 12 categories has to start with the letter A. So for example, like found in a bakery, you could say like apple pie. And that would work because it starts with the A. But all of your answers to each category has to start with the letter A. And we have this timer, so I'll tell you guys when to go, and then you'll be timed to try to answer all 12 categories. And then after the time's up, we will all share our answers, and the goal is to come up with the most unique answers. Alright, here we go. Alright, I got the letter M as in mouse. I'll type it in the chat. Yeah. Alright, what about 11? Personality traits.
Mopey.
Me too!
Yes!
I got madness.
Oh, nice.
We're all coming up with really dark ones because it's Halloween season. I put malicious.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like there are very positive traits we gave with the letter M.
Yeah.
I guess a positive one is manly.
I put menacing.
Oh, nice.
Perfect for Halloween.
And that's all I'm sharing today. So if you, well, just so you know, at the beginning of the year, I'll be sending out our newsletter that'll cover everything for the year, and then every month you'll get a newsletter of what's happening that month. Any other questions? You did it. Thank you so much for joining me with your annual planning. I'm looking forward to hearing what you got accomplished next year. And anything that we can do along your way, please let us know.